Monday! Happy Monday!
Today, I want to talk a lot about the new image library, Sarah, because I have put everyone on the new version of the page ladder and the image library. What is so great is it has so many options you didn't have before, such as I can do many more layers underneath, okay, which I really like. I can look at my pictures in a thumbnail. I can look at them in a whole, I don't know what you would call
a grid
it.
thing, like
a grid
list.
thing. Yeah, like a list view. There's so many different things that you can do.
Yes, it's so multifunctional. Let's take a look at some of these new features. The image library opens by default to the library tab in the thumbnail view. And to begin with, you may think this is all there is, but there's so much more. Like Kid said, you could change views to the list or to the gallery, which is great for those of us who need a larger view. But you can also filter your images. There's lots of functionality there so you can play with it. If we toggle down to the student tab, that's my happy place. It's like the image library and the coverage report had a baby. It's all the best of both things in one place. Everything is color coded. You can tell who's in the book and how many times right from the image library. It's amazing. It's only as amazing though as your tagging. So let's pause quickly and hear from a yearbook staff how they like to manage tagging.
You have to ask what their name is and spell it correctly.
If you're too nervous to ask what's your name, just say, "Oh, can you spell your name out, first and last?"
If it feels weird to ask your friend their name, just blame the teacher and just make a joke about it and just say oh well and be like that, so that's not awkward.
Whenever we're usually taking the photo, you should probably take it on your phone, because then you can tag it on your phone, and then when you go to put it back in on that Yearbook Avenue app, you can already have their name and stuff down.
Yeah. When we take their picture, we swipe up and add their name on the caption.
All right, back to the image library. The third tab down is the staff tab, which lets you see how many and which photos each staff member has uploaded at a glance. And then the pages tab shows you a mini page ladder. When you click on the page, you can see which images are used there. And there's also an image counter on each page, so you can tell how many images are placed on this page.
But the one thing is the cell phone option. Because we know the kids take great photos on their cell phones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you even teach a class on how to take great cell phone photos.
Absolutely. And last year, if you remember, you could log in to Yearbook Avenue from your cell phone and you could upload. But did you ever, the box was a little wide, it didn't fit.
It didn't fit the mobile the way it looks.
Well, guess what?
It does now.
It does now.
So now you can just go to whatever browser you use. Safari or Chrome usually works best. And you just go to Yearbook Avenue, you log in as your staff member, and you just go to image upload and image library, and boom, and everything is perfectly sized. So it's really easy to do.
How many pictures of Jasper do you plan on uploading?
500 million.
Right. So, I live with boys, right?
Right.
My husband, and I have 2 sons. And you know what they can never find? Their shoes. How do you lose your shoes? And I'll tell you how they lose them. They don't put them where they go.
Oh.
We have a shoe basket by the front door, right? So my son will say, "Where are my shoes? Have you checked the shoe basket?"
Yeah.
Right?
It's sort of like images in the image library.
It is. Don't just dump them somewhere.
If I'm taking JV soccer, it needs to go in the JV soccer folder. And if you're doing it by game, like if you did subcategories of how many games you're going to cover, it needs to go in that correct game. So yeah.
What if there's not a folder there yet?
Then they need to make one.
Right. Don't just dump it.
And make it in the correct place. Yeah. So think about this. Sports is the main category. Then soccer is the second category. And then under that, or it might say soccer boys. I always like to put the sport name and then whether it's girls or boys. So it alphabetizes. And then I might have the game on Friday the 1st. I put my dates and then I upload to those folders. And then I would have JV boys and I would have dates and put it in there. Never ever have a folder just called Kim's Pictures, because nobody knows what's in there, right?
It is very difficult. And the easier it is to find your photos, the more you're going to have great photos. I won't tell the name of the school because I'll get in trouble.
But there was a school one year who told me they could not finish a certain sport spread because they didn't have any photos. There were no good photos. And I was like, we're going to do something. We're going to make it work. We're fixers. So I log in and I look, and do you know how many photos were in that image?
A couple of hundred, weren't there?
Oh, it was 1,000. 1,000 images. And what happened is the student said, that's too many to go through. I'm just going to use the first few. They were horrible. The advisor didn't go look and see.
Because they weren't in the shoe basket.
They weren't in the shoe basket.
They weren't in the shoe basket. You've got to put the correct pictures in the correct category.
Let me tell you how I've tried to set my children up for success. I'm not going to say it's 100% successful, but the shoe basket is by the front door because it's easy for them to find it and hopefully remember to use it. So when you set up your image library at the beginning of the year, go ahead and make those folders for them.
Right.
If they have to look for the shoe basket, they're not going to use it.
So I like to go in and put in sports and put all my sports. I like to go in and for clubs and organizations, put in all my clubs. I like to go into academics and put all the academic things I'm going to cover. I like to go into events and put all the events we're going to cover. And then as some things happen throughout the year, I might, like a squirrel might get into your school on a Tuesday, and the squirrel is running rampant through the halls. So all of a sudden, everybody takes their cell phones out and they got cool pictures of the squirrel. Well, we didn't start off the year with a folder for the squirrel, but under student life or events, we might put out rabid squirrel running through school, and that's where everybody puts those pictures because that's going to be a fun.
I hope it's not rabid.
Well, it probably wasn't, but I did have that happen one time, and they did evacuate the school because they didn't know if the squirrel had rabies. So they had to get the people to come and capture it, and we were out in the hall.
Did you put that in the yearbook?
Yes, we did.
Fabulous.
It was the squirrel. And one time I was at a school and I looked at their book, and it was a coverage of a page, and it was about a day that something smelled bad. And something happened in the school that there was an odor that just...
You wanted to read that, didn't you?
Yes, and it permeated. And they actually evacuated the school to try to figure out that smell. And so the pictures were everybody outside looking at their phones and laughing because it was the smelly day. Okay?
That's fun.
Those are things that we add categories for. Yeah. So it's really well organized so that anybody from a newbie to somebody who's been on staff 3 years understands the organization. Now we've planned our ladder. We've planned our image library. We know what our coverage is going to be. Now we're ready to roll, right?
Did you know that cell phone cameras have the ability to add captions to images? For iPhones, swipe up on the image and it'll give you the option to add a caption. For an Android device, it's called tagging, but it's the same thing. You enter the name of the person in the photo and you can reference it later so that when you upload and tag the images in your image library, you have all the information you need.
Hopefully you guys are on your way to success this year and you are planning.
See you next Monday.